Dear Amelia Earhart. When we got to the fair, it was good like when I was a kid and sticky like it should be, full of stands selling cowboy hats and airbrushed t-shirts and the smell of state fair food. We were all starved, and the way Natalie and Hannah said it, "I'm starved." It was easy to say it like them. To fit in. When we got in line for frilly fries, Hannah started flirting with this guy in front of us. He had a white tank top, slicked back hair, and a stare that made me think he wanted to bite her. Hannah's red hair is straight as a board, or so she told me, but she puts it into curlers every day. Her bouncy red curls fall around her face, and her big eyes look like she's always seeing something incredible. Her lips look like she's half smiling at something that no one else could get. I was worried about not having any money and thinking I'd say I wasn't so hungry after all, but when we got to the front of the line, Hannah let the guy pay for us. He was making me nervous, leaning into Hannah like he was. I kept thinking that he was going to do something, but when we got our fries, she just said thanks and walked off, leaving him staring after her. I think she was showing off a little, but Natalie didn't act impressed. She just said,
Hair gel much?
After we ate, we went over to the fence to smoke cigarettes. I'd never smoked, and I didn't know how. I'd seen May do it before, so I tried to copy her. But I guess it was obvious. Natalie laughed so loud that she started coughing. She said,
"No, like this."
And she showed me how to keep the smoke in and then suck it down my lungs. That is how you inhale. It made me really dizzy and sort of sick feeling. By the time we were done, I was walking pretty much in zigzags. So when Natalie and Hannah were ready for rides, I wasn't sure if I wanted to go. There was this one, a special ride that costs extra, where they put you in a harness and pull you up, higher than any building in the city. And then they drop you, and you go flying over the whole fair. I finally told them that I'd forgotten to bring money, but Hannah said that she had some from her job and explained that she works a few nights a week as a hostess at a restaurant called Japanese Kitchen.
"She's so pretty,"
Natalie said, smiling at her.
"that they hired her even though she's only 15.
Shut up.
Hannah said.
It's because they could tell I would be an excellent employee.
When she counted out her money, it wasn't quite enough, but she said that if we flirted with the guy who ran the ride, he'd let us go for less. When we got to the front of the line, my heart was pounding. Part of me hoped the guy would say no, because I was honestly terrified. But Hannah did her best smile, and he agreed to give us a discount. I thought of you and how brave you were in your plane. And how you made other people around you brave, too. And suddenly, all three of us were harnessed together, and he was hoisting us up. While we were waiting to be dropped, we could see all of the tiny people in the fairgrounds. I forgot to be scared. I was thinking about how each one of them, so small from high up, was like their own island, with secret forests and hidden thoughts. And that's when he dropped us. With no warning. We were flying. I couldn't have felt more perfect. Sailing through the late afternoon sun and the smell of roasted corn and frilly fries and funnel cake, above all of the islands. So fast that when I opened my mouth, a whole world of air would come in. Next to the girls who could be my new friends. I thought of you, watching the earth always changing from above. The tall grass swaying. The rivers like long fingers and the fog from the sea sucking up the shore. And how, when you disappeared down there, you must have become a part of it. Yours, Laurel. Dear Kurt Cobain. All weekend I had been worried that Natalie and Hannah might forget about me in school on Monday, but today in English, Natalie passed me a note that said lame-o. with an arrow pointing toward the guy sitting next to me, who was drawing naked things on his poem handout. I looked over at her desk and smiled to show that I got the joke. And at lunch, I saw Natalie and Hannah wave to me from their table. My heart leapt. I threw away my lunch bag with its Kaiser roll in a quick toss and went to sit by them. Hannah was licking Doritos cheese off her fingers and passed me the bag. I tried not to look, but after a while, my eyes found Sky. I saw him see me with my new friends. I wondered if the sun landed right on me like it did on them. I imagined growing brighter and let myself look back at him a moment too long. Hannah caught me.
Who are you looking at?
I mumbled.
Nobody.
But my cheeks got hot and probably red like an unfortunate truth meter. Hannah insisted.
Who? Tell me.
I didn't want to risk losing my new friends, so I said.
Oh. I think his name is Sky.
Hannah's eyes picked him out, and she said.
Ooh. Sky. Yeah. Mr. Mystery.
What do you mean?
I asked. Hannah shrugged.
He's one of those guys everyone knows of, except no one actually knows him. He somehow manages to seem popular without having, like, any actual friends yet. He transferred here this year. He's a junior. But he's totally hot. I'd do him.
Natalie hit her shoulder.
Hannah.
What?
She said.
I didn't mean I'm gonna. He's Laurel's.
I blushed again. I mumbled that he wasn't. Hannah looked over her shoulder and said.
We'll make him yours. He's looking at you.
When I glanced back, he still was. I realized then that this could be who I am. Right there, with the cement burning my legs under the middle school jeans I'd cut off this morning, short enough that they would pass the longer than your fingertips test only if I shrugged up my shoulders, and May's silver white shirt that shimmered in the light. It was as if an invisible band started playing the soundtrack to a new life. I heard you. I wondered if this was how May felt when she was in high school. It must have been, because it was her music. All the songs we'd listened to together, playing at once. The world she'd disappeared into was here. I looked up from my blush, away from Sky, whose eyes were still on me, and turned to Natalie and Hannah. I laughed out loud, full of the secret someone I could become. Hello, hello, hello. Yours. Laurel. Dear Kurt. May's clothes must have worked like magic, because since I started wearing them, things have been happening. I sat with Natalie and Hannah at lunch all week. Then today, Friday, I was walking down the hallway to bio, just making my feet follow the lines of light on the floor. Suddenly I looked up, because I was about to bump into someone. It was him. Sky. I could have reached out and touched him. He said.
Hey. What's up?
His voice sounded like gravel turning to grains of sugar. I started thinking of how to answer. I know that what's up is just something people say, but it's a very hard thing to say anything back to. It's like the only response is nothing. I didn't want to say nothing because, actually, a lot was up. Instead I said,
I saw you the other day.
Each word felt like its own stone, falling to the bottom of the lake. He nodded, his head tilted a little. Like he was trying to figure out what I was.
I'm Laurel.
I added.
Sky.
He smiled. I was about to say I know, but thought better of it. When my eyes finally focused, I saw he was wearing a Nirvana t-shirt. This seemed perfect. So I said,
I love Kurt Cobain.
Yeah? What's your favorite album?
In Utero.
Right on. Everyone says never mind. That is, everyone who doesn't really listen.
I smiled and scrambled in my head to keep the conversation going.
Yeah. I really like how Kurt sounds like he's exploding from inside.
I couldn't actually believe I said that. But Sky nodded, like he knew what I was talking about. And that's when I suddenly realized that he was looking at me like he wanted to touch me. I tugged on May's tight orange shirt. My skin was burning. I had to get away before I broke out in flame.
I'm just going to bio.
"'Kay.
Sky said.
Maybe I'll see you round."
I nodded and walked away, my heart pounding. I told myself not to turn around. But I did. And his eyes were still on me. I felt something spark, the mystery of what he saw when he looked at me. In class, while Mr. Smith was talking about covalent bonding, I kept replaying it and noticing new things each time. Like the way one of Sky's sleeves was a little bit turned up over his arm. How the hairs on his biceps were standing up. The freckle on his eyelid. I thought of what Hannah had said, about how he transferred here. I wondered from where, and I wondered if he'd ever been in love before. Yours, Laurel. Dear Amy Winehouse. I remember one night after May got back from sneaking out, she came into my room and lay on my bed and whispered,
"You have to hear this song."
She put her earbuds in my ear, and as she fell back against the pillow, I heard your voice for the first time. "I Go Back to Black," you sang. The swinging rhythms of the song sounded bright, but there was a hurt in your voice under its honey, although it's not as simple as that, really. You had a way of singing that could mix together so many feelings. And I could tell that the words you sang came out of the real you. That they were true. It turns out my new friend Hannah loves you, too. Hannah and I have together 8th period, and she's always forgetting her gym clothes. Since we went to the fair together 2 weeks ago, a lot of times now I pretend I forgot mine even if I didn't, so that we can walk around the track together and talk instead of playing kickball or badminton or whatever with everyone else. Hannah wants to be a singer, and sometimes when we are walking around the track, she sings your songs to me. Her favorites are Stronger Than Me, You Know I'm No Good, and, of course, Rehab. She likes to shout no, no, no and shake her red hair back and forth. The way that you didn't want anyone controlling you, that's part of Hannah's spirit, too. Hannah acts fearless, but you can tell that underneath, she keeps secrets. She's the sort of girl who guys fall in love with, but she doesn't act like a pretty girl. She acts like she's trying to find a way out of herself. She always has at least one boyfriend, sometimes 2 at once. Hannah told me her parents died when she was a baby, so she and her brother used to live with her aunt in Arizona. But her brother got in too many fights at his school, so the aunt sent them here to live with their grandparents. When Hannah first moved here in 7th grade, she dated one of the most popular 8th grade soccer boys. Then she dated another soccer boy and another. And then by the time she was in 8th grade she dated a couple of guys in high school. Even though Hannah could have hung out with anyone at her new middle school, even the popular girls, Hannah said that she picked Natalie because she could tell that Natalie got it.
What's it?
I asked. Hannah shrugged.
What it's like to be different, even if you don't want everyone to know it. Like, I knew that I could have Natalie spend the night, and she wouldn't be too weirded out by the fact that I love my horse and live with my grandparents who are going deaf and have a mean brother who likes to yell a lot.
Hannah also told me about this guy, Casey, who she's messing around with. That's what she says. She met him at her job at Japanese Kitchen when he was there with a bunch of his friends for someone's birthday. It's a good place to go for birthdays, because the chefs cook in front of you and do fire tricks at the table. He's in college, so honestly, it's really strange for him to want to date a girl so much younger. It makes me a little bit nervous for Hannah because of this older guy who May used to date, named Paul. When I asked Hannah why she was dating someone in college, she just laughed and said,
"I'm precocious."
I guess Casey actually likes Hannah more than just to mess around with, because he sends her flowers, red tulips, which are her favorite. She likes to show them off for everyone at school. Principal Weiner is getting tired of Hannah having deliveries in the office, but Hannah says that the flowers are from her uncle for her to bring to her grandma, who's sick at home. The principal asks why he doesn't just send them to the house, and Hannah says that it's because no one answers the door there, so they would just wilt in the sun. The principal knows Hannah's lying, but she can't say much, on account of Hannah's grandma being sick and her grandpa being too hard of hearing to understand the principal if she tries to complain, and probably too tired to care much, anyway. So as it is, Hannah carries Casey's flowers from class to class, puts them on her desk, and slumps down behind them so that the teachers can hardly see her. And she leans over to Natalie's desk and makes silly faces. I think Natalie sort of hates the flowers and hates that Hannah gets them. Because she's always saying how she doesn't believe in flowers or things like that. But I don't know if that's completely true, because she's making Hannah a painting of tulips in her art class. Natalie showed it to me after school the other day, but she told me not to tell Hannah about it. It's a surprise. Natalie is really a good painter. The first petal of the tulip already had more shades of color than you could count. I am at Dad's this week, which means I usually take the city bus home, because he works too late to pick me up. But today, instead of going right home after school, I walked with Natalie and Hannah to get Dairy Queen. On the way there, Natalie and Hannah kept wanting to flash people. I was scared of doing it at first, but I tried to remind myself to swallow what scares me, the way I learned to do when I'd go out with May. And I ran really fast afterward. I outran Natalie and Hannah every time. They'd catch up to me a few blocks later, still screaming and giggling. And then I'd scream and giggle, too, and the worst part was over, and I was happy to be one of them. Hannah bought us our ice cream. She looked proud to be able to do this, and then she had to leave to go to work. Even though she's late for class a lot, Hannah's always on time for her job. Before she went, she said she and Natalie are going to spend the night at Natalie's house tomorrow, which is Friday, and that I should come. I was so happy when she asked, because it means that we are becoming real friends. Dad came back from work a few minutes after I got home from Dairy Queen. He works at Rhodes Construction, fixing the broken foundations of houses and things like that. When May and I were kids, Dad used to walk in the door in the evening and we'd run to hug him. I loved how he'd be covered with sweat and dirt, like he'd been on an adventure. Mom would be making dinner, the smell of fried meat and chili filling up the house. She cooked like a baker, Dad always said. She didn't throw in ingredients and taste later. Each was perfectly measured, but life isn't like that. You can't be sure how it's going to come out, even if you do everything right. They turn around on you, lives do. Dad used to come home and look strong from the day of building. Now he looks tired, like a bulldozer ran him over. When May and I were kids, he used to be good to climb on. But now it's like I'm afraid if I get too close to him, I'll trip and spill out all the sadness he's keeping hidden. He used to love to play jokes on all of us, like switching salt with sugar. He did this so much that we got used to shaking it out on our hands and licking it to determine which was which. Mom got annoyed by it, but May and I thought it was funny. He'd hide his alarm clock on the weekends, under a couch cushion or something, and we'd have to go running through the house to find it when the alarm went off. Or sometimes he'd poke holes in the apples in the fridge and stick gummy worms in. This was our favorite, because it meant candy. He doesn't do that sort of stuff anymore, but he still kisses my forehead when he walks in the door. Then he asks about my day, like he knows he should, and I do my best to make it sound good. Tonight I made microwave mac and cheese with little mini hot dogs for us for dinner, which is our favorite. We still have food in the freezer from May's memorial nearly 6 months ago, but I don't think either of us wants to eat it.
So you're making friends?
He asked over our mac and cheese.
Yep.
I smiled.
That's great.
Dad said.
Actually, I was going to ask you, can I spend the night at my friend Natalie's tomorrow?
Dad hesitated a moment, and I crossed my fingers under the table. Finally he said,
Sure, Laurel.
He paused and added,
I don't want you cooped up with me.
Then he turned on the baseball game. He's a Cubs fan, because he grew up in Iowa near their farm team, and I watched with him while I did my homework. Dad used to give me baseball is like life lectures, but he doesn't do that anymore. Now we just watch in silence. I guess some things turned out too sad even to be explained with a bases-loaded strikeout. Yours, Laurel.